Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by Onyx Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is Onyx Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, Onyx Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust Onyx Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about Onyx, go to onyxmaps.com/hunt and check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. All right, guys, if you're in the market for a new hunting rifle this coming year, look no further than a Kelbly's rifle. I've been rocking their Koda rifle for the last couple seasons, and I've had great success with it. It's an amazing shooter, and every time I put one of their rifles in somebody's hands, they're like, oh, I got to get one of these. Kelbly's holds over 92 world and national records that are either broken or set on one of their actions or rifles. So they really set a higher level of accuracy. If you want to know more about Kelbly's rifles, go to kelbly.com. That's KELBLY.com. Tell them Johnny Mac sent you with Soul Seekers, and go enjoy shooting that much more in this coming hunting season. Be blessed, everybody. Go check out Kelbly Rifles. Ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year to all of you, and welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mac, and today I'm kicking off the new year with all of you with a warrior of the woods, a warrior of the Northeast, and someone who I truly, truly have grown to love, appreciate, admire, respect, and somebody who you're going to find totally inspiring. So as we dive into today's episode, I want you to understand that as you are thinking about the new year, be thinking about the new me as well, because we're going to be diving into the topics of being a better human being. And it starts with your foundation of yourself. You can never save anyone else until you save yourself first. Just like when you get on an airline and they say, hey, make sure to put your oxygen mask on before you put on the oxygen mask for other people. You got to take care of yourself. And if you're not healthy, then what type of example are you setting for yourself and your loved ones? So without further ado, the host of the 46 of 46 podcast, James Appleton, ladies and gentlemen. Woo, James.
Woo-hoo.
Welcome to the new year, brother.
Hey, Happy New Year. It's good to be here. I appreciate you having me back on your podcast here. What a privilege.
Oh, dude, it's so much fun having you. Brother, iron sharpens iron. And every time I get a chance to chat with you, I'm motivated, I'm inspired, and I'm ready to live a better life. You posted something on social media that hit me like a ton of bricks, and it was a picture of you back in your musical grunge days. And how much did you weigh at your heaviest?
The most that I ever saw on a scale that I can remember was 296. So I never personally saw 300 like on a scale, but that's not to say I didn't weigh 300, so we'll just, but I can't completely say 300 pounds, but because I never actually saw the scale say that, but like it could have been 300 pounds. But I mean, 296 is the most I've ever seen on a scale.
When you get to that point, you kind of just like, I don't need to step on a scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what are you at these days?
I'm around that 212 to 215 ballpark, depending how many carbs I had the day before, but kind of in that ballpark right now.
And looking like an absolute savage.
So I appreciate that.
So the post you made on social media was a comparison picture of you when you're pushing 300 and then you living that best life with that chiseled chest and rippled abs. And I'm like, Dude, yes, man. What great transformation. So,
Thank you.
no better way to start off the new year than to actually start talking about the foundation that we build for ourselves. So, you, on top of hosting the 46 to 46 podcast, you also run Absolute Aid and you do a lot of coaching in order to get men to be their most physically fit, not only in the body, but in the mind and the spirit and the soul, which I really appreciate. So, dude, what was the kickoff for you? At what point did
Mhm.
you look in the mirror and were you like, I need to do something?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely always the bigger kid and the bigger guy in general. But I was always like an athlete in high school, but and not just like the fat guy that plays on the that plays on the on the team. I like actually was a competitor and always been very athletic. So there was always that. So I've always been able to move and very athletic. But the catalyst for change was December 2014. My first daughter came September 2014, and then I was in bed with my wife. We were just watching TV one night, December 2014. So my daughter would have been 2 months old, and she just basically looked at me and was like, "So what's the deal? What's your end game with this?" And she just like gave me that like kind of look up and down, and it was like, damn. It was it was definitely that moment where it was like, well, it's time. She goes, "We got a daughter now. It's time to fix this." And yeah, so I rolled over, grabbed my cell phone, texted a buddy of mine who is the guitar player in my band, and I said he's a like personal trainer, that type. I was like, "Dude, I need some help." And that was it. Cue the Rocky theme music, and that was the beginning of the transformation, and
Yeah.
it just didn't I just kept going. That's really the only secret. You just gotta keep going,
Dun,
and,
dun, dun,
here I
dun,
am.
dun, dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun, dun, dun,
it's
dun,
really
dun,
it.
dun, 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 bum, bum.
Da, da.
If I can change and you can change, we all can change.
Everybody can change.
Dude, I
Yep.
love that. That was obviously Rocky 4?
Yeah,
The
Rocky 4, yeah.
yeah.
The best of the bunch.
So,
The fan favorite of the bunch.
yeah, I mean, anytime you beat communism, it's a phenomenal
Mhm.
win for everybody,
Yep.
for all
We all
parties
won.
included.
Yeah, we all won in that movie.
So talk to me a little bit. So your wife looked you up and down and was like, "So what are you gonna do about this?" You reached out to a buddy who's more like into
Mhm.
personal fitness. Did you feel
Yep.
like you didn't have the knowledge or the accountability or just the grit and determination?
Definitely none of the above. Yeah, there was none of the above there. And what I've learned in the last 9 years of hammering nonstop, and I'm at the point too now where that friend of mine that I reached out to, he reaches out to me now. Like we have definitely traded spots in that category. But, a strong body builds a strong mind, but a strong mind builds a strong life. And nothing gets your mind sharper than a physical transformation. Doing losing weight is like the lowest hanging fruit to kind of sharpen your mind because it's one of the only things in life that nobody can do for you.
Mm,
No one can make you lift the weights. No one can make you move your legs and run. Like you just have to do it yourself. And by doing that, you get stronger. But that's what kind of also shifts your brain and it rewires your mind and how you speak and how you think and how you approach things because it's like, oh, it's hard to go sweat. It's hard to go out and train when you don't feel like it. It's hard to, where I live, I train in my shed. So I've lifted in 90 degrees and I've lifted in negative 18 degrees.
mm,
So it's a huge swing. So it's like these things are hard. So you just get used to doing things that are hard. And that is what rewires your brain. But you have to build the discipline, you have to build the consistency and the personal accountability to actually see it through. But and the only secret is to just keep doing it, keep going, no matter whether you want to or not. But by doing that and actually seeing the results of the physical, kind of work you're putting in, that's what changes your brain. And when your brain changes, that's when everything else in your life
mm.
starts to change. You just look at everything differently
It,
at that
it's,
point.
it's really interesting. So 2020 changed the world for a lot of
Yeah.
people in for good and for bad.
Yeah.
But during that time when ironically one of the healthiest things that you could do is go to the gym and work out, they were all shutting down. You couldn't buy dumbbells anywhere. And like
Hmm.
people were people were raping and pillaging the price of dumbbells. Like a set
Yep.
was, you know, hundreds of dollars around where I
Yeah.
was living. And I was like, holy smokes. So, I can tell from firsthand experience being a PE teacher, I've always
Hmm.
been in the gym. Couple things. Number one, when I was in high school and I was debating whether or not I wanted to pursue sports in college, I asked other guys who weren't going to play sports in college, and I said, "What you guys plan on still working out still?" Because at that time in my life, I really only thought that you worked out because of sports. Like
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
live,
sure.
like other than that, like I
Health is not on your radar when you're a high school kid or a college kid or even in your 20s. It's like it's not on your radar.
totally, totally. And so now as an adult, I have an easy curl bar with that's a 75 pounds. I got a set of dumbbells. I got a treadmill. And it's like, okay, I got those. I'll use them someday. I'll use them
Hmm.
someday. And then they just sit there and they
Hmm.
become door holders or,
Yeah.
very heavy paperweights. And what I've learned is that, like you said, you're sharpening your mind.
Yeah.
The biggest issue that people have, I view, is just getting started. Like just making the conscious decision to say, "Oh, I'm going to go get on the floor. I'm going to
Hmm.
get in a push-up
Yeah.
position." Whether it's just
Sure.
one push-up or do one sit-up or, why I love running so much and the concept of running for people is because people view it as this extremely difficult thing, but anyone could actually do it.
Uh-huh.
Um, so what like you just kicked off and you're
Yeah.
like, all right, from this
Yeah,
moment on.
it was a natural progression. So for me, and I coach people to do the exact same thing because you know, I have always been a jack of all trades, a master of none.
Hmm.
I've always been pretty good at anything I'm doing, but I've never been an expert. I'm never an expert at anything, but
Yeah.
I'm always pretty above average no matter what I pursue. However, the only thing that I will tell anybody that uh, no, I am an expert, I am in the top 1% is the discipline and consistency. Like consistency is my superpower. I am very good at being consistent. It's what I it's a strength, no doubt about it. So that obviously was to my advantage, but also the only reason that is to my advantage in life is because I built it on this exact journey. So, what happened with this was I went to, like I said, she gave me that look up and down. I texted a friend. It was like, okay, dude, I need some help. So it started very, linearly. I was doing body weight workouts on my dining room floor. And it was the Adirondacks in the winter, so cold and snowy and stuff. And so I was doing body weight workouts on my living room floor, and I did that for uh probably like 4 to 5 days a week for, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months, and it just, like, slowly progressed, and it progressed, and it got better, and it got better. I switched my diet up. I was basically like meat and vegetables, was 90% of my diet, and I ate as much of it as I wanted, as much meat, as much vegetables as I wanted, so I was full. But when you replace, a foot-long sub every day from Subway with meat and vegetables, and you still eat as much as you want, you're actually naturally gonna still eat less calories. Your insulin is gonna change, the amount of calories the amount of food your body's gonna keep and store is gonna change, like, you're just kind of rewiring your body, and when you eat until you're full, it's a lot harder to fall off the wagon. So that's the approach that I took, and it was very linear, and then it just after maybe 4 or 5 months of doing that, I decided to make the best investment of my entire life, which is start building a home gym, which to this very day, this morning, I was using the exact same weights that I purchased 9 years ago. Yeah, and it's elevated to that. And then going back to your whole thing with the sports, like I said, I played sports too. Then I took up became very interested in the sport of powerlifting, and all of a sudden it's like now training has sport to it. It has an event, it has a game, and therefore it added a new element. So it's like, oh, now I'm not just training to lose some weight. Now I've like, oh, now there's something to actually like look forward to and something that's fun. So training became an activity, and it just continued. But then you have to keep yourself going. That's really the biggest challenge, because anyone can drop 20 pounds. Anyone can drop 20 pounds. I want to see you 6 months later and see, are you still continuing to hammer just as hard as you did when you lost those 20 pounds? Because ultimately most people aren't. They're not staying consistent. So that's where the mindset comes in the sense of like having to rewire your brain to see what is actually holding you back. And when you kind of get yourself over that hump, you build that discipline, and your brain changes. Huge progress comes. But that's, can you keep yourself going long enough to experience that? Or after you lose that 20 pounds, do you get complacent and let your foot off the gas pedal? I use the analogy a lot with a car on a hill. So you drive your car up the top of the hill, you got a red light at the top of the hill, so you press the brake, you stop at the top of the hill. If you take your foot off the gas pedal, you're going to roll backwards. But if you keep your foot on the gas pedal, what are you going to do? You're going to stay in place. You're not necessarily going forward, but you're not going backwards. But the second you take your foot off the gas pedal, you're going to start rolling backwards. And then usually what happens when you roll down a hill? Do you stop right at the bottom?
Nope.
No, you go even further from the bottom of the hill. So those people, they lost 20 pounds and then they gained 30 pounds. You see it all the time. I'm sure half the people listening have experienced that exact same thing. I certainly have in my life, throughout my lifespan. And that's it. You just have to keep your foot on the gas pedal. Because whatever you did to lose X amount of pounds, you have to do the exact same thing to keep it off. Because again, the second you left your foot off the gas pedal, now you're backtracking and rolling backwards, and it's gonna slowly creep back on. It's gonna creep back in your old habits. Old habits die hard. They're coming back. So it's really just like you just got to keep your foot on the gas pedal, and that's what I've done for 9 years. And there's no slowing down. That's for sure. But that's ultimately like that's what I did. And because I just continued to be consistent and just kept going, whether I wanted to or not, or whether I felt like it or not. Every day at this point too, I'm almost 100 pounds less. It's like every day I go to the gym, it's not necessarily to get stronger. It's because I fear going backwards. Like I fear that, it's like I don't want that. I'm terrified to put the weight back on because, dude, I'm a fat guy, dude. I could put that weight back on real fast if I wanted to. So it's like I have to maintain that discipline. And if I take my foot off the gas pedal, that's when because throughout the journey, I've put, you'll lose some weight, then you might put 5 pounds back on, even 10 pounds. And it's like, God, that's terrible. But then you got to keep yourself, nope, I got to, and it's usually because it's never because my training stopped. That's never stopped. It's because I get complacent and it's like, oh, I want to eat this. Then you eat that. And then it's always because of the diet, because the diet is so important and crucial to this equation. But, once you let that foot off the gas pedal, that's when you backtrack. So, in general, it's about playing the long game when it comes to, diet, weight loss, transforming, whatever.
Yeah.
You have to play the long game.
So lifting weights is important.
Mhm.
The older men get, the more testosterone they lose, and less T in the body means less muscle mass. And if you're not constantly working to build it, then you're easily going to lose it. Is your approach more fitness based first or nutrition based first? All right, guys, if you're in the market for some new optics, go check out blackdiamondoptics.com. They are direct to consumer, and we're going to be running their optics for 2024, and we're really happy to be using them. They offer rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, and even thermal optics, all at wholesale pricing. Go check out blackdiamondoptics.com for more, and go have better vision this coming hunting season.
Well, they both go hand in hand, but for me, I think it's a lot easier to go slam some weights around than it is to make sure your diet is totally on, on par, and you're hitting everything you're trying to hit. So for me, it's like my focus is usually on the gym because like I said, every day I know in my head, every damn day that I go to the gym, that I pick up that barbell is one more day that I'm fighting forward and not going backwards.
Yeah.
So even if my diet is not at 100% right now, and it's never below like 70%. Like, you get a little complacent from time to time. But every day that I go and go inside that gym, I know I'm still I'm still in the game, I'm still on the horse, I'm still moving forward. I am not going backwards. So for me, that's more of the accountability factor, is like if I get into the gym, I'm still in the game, and 9 years later I'm still in the game. So that's how I've approached it. But
No.
the diet is equally important. And it's also, you got to eat for your goals. So like, you everyone's heard the phrase, because it's such a cliche, you can't out train a bad diet, which is not entirely true. So there are freaks of nature. But for the vast majority of us mortals, yeah, it is a very accurate statement and a truthful cliche. But there are freaks of nature out there. But they go hand in hand. So, but if you were to say, well, can you eat terribly and lose weight if you still work out? Probably not. Can you eat really clean and hit the right calories and not work out and lose weight? Yeah, you can. So ultimately, I guess in that regard, if weight loss is what you're trying to do, you can do it without working out. It's just easier, better, and a different kind of a different kind of weight loss
Hmm.
if you don't work out, because it's like most people don't realize your body is going to get rid of your muscle first. I mean, you're going to get rid of your muscle first because your body's like, I don't want this. I don't need this. So, like, if you're not lifting weights, that's why lifting weights when you're trying to lose weight is so important, because what you're doing is you're telling your body, no, keep this muscle. I need this muscle, because your body says, no, I need body fat to get through winter. So it's going to keep the body fat. It's going to get rid of the muscle. And you know this because anytime you see someone who comes back from a backpacking trip, they're skinny fat. Yeah, they have no upper body muscles, like, at all, because their body for the last 6 months didn't need any of it.
Hmm.
So it got rid of it. Same thing. So, but by lifting weights and training in that, with weights, you're telling you're telling your body to keep this muscle because I need it, because something's happening when I'm lifting these weights that I need it. Okay, let's get rid of the body fat. That's what we don't need. So that's why it's so important to lift weights when you're trying to lose weight, unless you don't mind the skinny fat look. You don't mind the look where you don't have any muscles. Personally, I don't think it's a very attractive look, but hey, I'm not here to judge anyone. But I also think that it's a lot more functional, and you'll feel better about yourself when you pop that shirt off, or just living life, just everyday life. Like, it's a lot better to be really strong than it is to have a smaller number on the scale, in general. But
Yeah.
who am I? Who am I? Just a lowly peasant.
Oh, wow, so lowly. I'll
Just
tell
a
you
lowly
this.
peasant.
I'll tell you this. I saw a very funny meme on Facebook today. I laughed out loud. Not just
Mm.
LOL'd. I actually
Oh,
laughed out loud.
I love it.
And it talked about the NBA, and it said NBA versus in the '90s versus now, and it showed Karl Malone flexing and
Sure.
and Shaquille
Yeah.
O'Neal, and then it showed like these two players from now, and they're like soy boys, like
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
super skinny, like no
It's a different
muscle.
world. Well, it's funny when you hear Dennis Rodman talk about basketball now, because talk about they were at war, and a guy like him wouldn't last today, because he wouldn't make it through the first quarter in any NBA game anymore, because he'd foul out immediately. But yeah, different world, big time different world. Aren't memes the greatest thing that's happened in the last, like, 20 years? Like, social media, I mean, I think the only positive thing I see about social media is you can stay in touch with people that you wouldn't otherwise know. You can create businesses on social media, and the invention of the meme. Everything else is terrible. Everything else is a total, like, downfall of our society. But the invention of the meme is without doubt the biggest benefit to the invention of social media
Oh, it's
because the meme is just priceless. It's
um,
just so
what is it? A picture is worth 1,000 words. So when you put a picture together, some sort of meme, it's like, okay, here you go. Like there's so much you
yep.
can pull from it.
And
So
the
go.
comedy is just so good. I mean, it's like you see the creativity of the human race in like when a meme hits, when it strikes your chord. I mean, let's talk about it for days because they're so perfect.
It just goes to show like how witty human beings are.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It really showcases like the best that we got. I love a good meme.
Oh man. Okay, so here's one thing that hit me over 2023. So
Do tell.
over the last year, I realized I put my body into a lot of stress. Um, I moved my family 2,000
Yep.
miles. I relocated. I didn't have a job. I wasn't making money. We weren't meeting
Hmm.
bills. There's a lot of stress going on behind the scenes that, everyone on the other side of this microphone doesn't see day to day.
Yeah,
You
of
know,
course. I know the feeling.
I am a comfort eater. So when I'm stressed, I eat. When
Hmm.
I'm uncomfortable, I eat. And I want to eat sugary processed crap, garbage.
Yeah. Well, because
Um,
you want the dopamine hit, and we all want the dopamine hit. So, like, it's a very natural kind of instinct.
no, totally, totally. But one thing I realized living down here in the South in the heat of Texas,
Hmm.
you
Deep
know,
in the heart of Texas.
that's right. And the stars at night are big and bright.
Hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. They really are, though.
That's phenomenal. I look at the sky all the time in the mornings and every night. I just go outside, look up. I'm just like, oh, it's beautiful. Thank God for it. Um, but one of the things is I had this. Tell me if you've ever had this like realization. I woke up one morning and I was like, I don't feel optimal. I don't
Hmm.
feel my best. I don't even know what feeling my best is because most days are just me feeling, ugh. Like whether it's my back hurts or I don't feel good in my clothes or I just don't have good self esteem because the way I look in the mirror, or I haven't exercised in a while, or I knew I ate a lot more junk food, and I realized I was like, that's not a good life to live, man. And every day isn't me feeling my best, being my
Hmm.
best. Like, what's the point of life? I quickly understood how fast someone can go from like rah 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 to a nihilist where nothing matters at all. Like,
Yeah.
what is the point of this? I don't care. It doesn't matter anymore. And just
Yeah. Right.
destroy your life and eat yourself into oblivion and just
Hmm.
like I understand it because I don't want that life anymore.
Sure. It's a hard life too. I mean, it's easy to wake up and to feel that way. Going back to what you said about being a comfort eater, like we all do, because sugar is a drug. I don't remember exactly the science behind it, but I remember in high school our chemistry teacher telling us sugar is only two molecules difference from cocaine. It's only two molecules different from cocaine. I don't know exactly what that means. I'm no scientist, but I remember he'd always say that. But yeah, sugar is a drug. You don't take sugar, you don't have sugar for a while, like you literally feel the detox happening.
Hmm.
And you feel the what's the word I'm looking for? Not detox. That's not the right word. You feel, when you're a drug addict and then you don't have it for a bit, your body goes through.
Oh,
Listeners are like shouting it out right now. I know. I'm just having a total brain fart. You know the word I'm
withdrawals,
talking.
withdrawal.
Withdrawal. Yes, withdrawal. I was just testing you. Actually, I knew the word. I was just testing you. Your body goes through withdrawal, but what you're doing is you need the dopamine hit, so you're stressed, right? And the quickest, lowest hanging fruit is food. It's immediate dopamine hit. Some people retreat to their cell phone. You notice it.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
you'll have a argue. A couple will have an argument. One might retreat to their cell phone, and it's because you're going for that dopamine hit. So I have found too in those scenarios when you recognize that sometimes you just say, "Okay, I'm just going to let it rip right now because I don't care. And it's like, all right, cool, let it rip. But if you recognize that you need a quick dopamine hit, you can actually kind of harness that and say, okay, and like then you can take a deep breath. You can relax for a minute and say, okay, that's what I'm looking for right now, because that's going to get my stress level changed. So is there something else I can do that doesn't involve, putting these extra calories down my throat, down my gullet? And sometimes you might win. Sometimes, you just say, screw it, give me the cake, whatever. Cool. But you might be able to fight it off sometimes and, okay, let me harness this need for dopamine somewhere else. And then, hey, look at that. You just had a nice win. You just got a win by not giving in to that temptation. And again, if it works 50% of the time, then great. That's 50% calories that you just didn't eat that you ultimately like would have regretted later. So it's just, little tactics. And once we recognize it, we like, it's easy. It's okay to like accept these things. Sometimes it sucks. So let's just accept it and figure out, okay, how can we improve? So maybe the next time you say, okay, is there a way that I can harness and channel this need for dopamine right now to get out of this stressful situation?
Mm.
And sometimes you'll figure it out and sometimes you won't, but those sometimes you figured it out, great. You just won.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. As a thank you, I got more discount codes for all of you. If you are in the market for anything in regards to calls, whether it's elk calls, turkey calls, deer or predator calls, you can save 15% on all Rocky Mountain hunting calls by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. And if you're in the market for hard side hydration, a better way to hydrate, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10 to save 10%. And we also have a discount at Graxaw.com. Graxaw is the leader in ultralight game bags and other backcountry gear. Light, fast, and efficient is their motto. Use the code SOULSEEKERS, all one word, to save 10% at checkout. It's pretty interesting. It's the stacking wins. Just a small,
Oh yeah,
just a
baby.
small
That's
win.
it. You have to.
I had a guest, Johnny L. Sasser. He's the author of Design the Man Within book. He's been on the podcast a couple times. He's a former Army Ranger and head. Oh, what's it called when you protect somebody over? That's head of state that goes to other countries.
Withdrawal, I believe, is what it's called. A withdrawal.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
different one. Yeah, I don't know.
I forget what it is. Anyways, he's had a lot of military experience.
Sure.
Anyways, the point is that he was like, I was talking to him about not feeling that good, and this is all within this last year where what we're talking about, not feeling optimal. And he's like, dude, set yourself a goal. You want to start working out more? He's like, don't make it some unattainable thing. Be like,
Yeah.
get on the floor and do 10 push-ups, but do 10 push-ups every day. He goes, just make
Yeah.
sure, like, hey, did you get your push-ups in? Did you do your 10? Did you do your 50?
Yeah.
Did you do your 100? Doesn't all have to be at once. Just
Yeah.
before you go to bed at night, did you do that one thing that shows consistency
Correct.
every day? And then build on that and make it whatever you want. And I was like, yeah, I like that. I like that. Because I said this earlier, the hardest part is for people just to start, just to get on the ground.
Yeah.
Right? Just to get out of bed.
See, I have found that there's kind of like, there's two parts that are equally as hard, but everyone's going to struggle with a different one of them. And so you've got the people who can't start, and that's the hardest part. But then you have the people who they'll go 0 to 60 immediately, and those people burn out a month later. And that's like for example, my buddy who I reached out to originally to help me, change. He was a guitar player in my band, the drummer of our band, one of our best friends. Our joke is how he starts working out every quarter. That's the joke. Every quarter of the year, he'll goes gung ho in the gym. He's training hard like a savage. And then he injures himself and doesn't go back to the gym for 3 months, and then repeat. And it happens like 4 times a year. I swear, 4 times a year. So there are some people though that they go too hard too quickly. And I couldn't agree more with what you said about that your guest said about you start small and build momentum because it's about building momentum. So let's go back to my story. It didn't start with me saying rolling over, sending dude a text and changing everything. And okay, now I'm gonna go spend thousands of dollars on a home gym and like, dude, we're doing this. And no, it started with me. Okay, the next day, I started doing some little body weight workouts on my dining room floor. They were probably 15 minutes at most. I did that 3 or 4 days a week for a few months. And then it progressed to, okay, now I'm going to start lifting weights, even though I had already lifted weights in my life. So like I was very familiar with that. I bought my own. So like I didn't have as big a learning curve, I guess, in that category. But you got to start small and build the momentum. I have in my line of work, we work 14-hour days regularly, 12-hour days normal, oftentimes 14-hour days. And, I'm able to and that's a huge reason why I built the consistency that I did is because by continuing to get myself to go to the gym when we're working those long hour days, 5 days a week, it's like, that trained me to operate at a way higher level than most people because nobody wants to go to the gym at 2 o'clock in the morning after a 14-hour workday or do a 12-hour day, go to the gym knowing, oh, if I wanted to go tomorrow, and I'm supposed to deadlift tomorrow, the gym will be closed when I get out of work. Okay, well, I guess I have to go first thing in the morning. So it's like I might go after a 12-hour day of work at 8 o'clock at night, and then I'm up again at 5 a.m. to do tomorrow's workout. So between those 2 days of work, I train twice. By doing that, um, by doing that, I I literally forged myself to operate at a higher level. So I'm really proud of that. But because I would do things like that, I get so many people asking me at work, like, my God, you went to the gym? That's crazy. Like, how do you do that? We work these crazy hours because nobody in the film industry goes to the gym. Like, dude,
Mhm.
nobody does.
Mhm.
It's not a thing. Training, fitness, none of it. But what I always tell these people is because they have this idea that if they're not going every day or 5 days a week, they just don't go. So I say to them, I say, okay, here's your fitness program. Are you ready? I say, this is your fitness program. And so I always tell the people, you're going to commit to going 2 days a week for the next 2 months, 30 days, whatever you want to do, 2 days a week, one work week, one day during the work week, which is going to require, you to
Schedule.
go
Yeah, figure it
schedule.
out. Yeah.
And then you're going to go one of the weekend days because there's no excuses for the weekend days. You can make one of the weekend days go to the gym. That's it. It's like it's giving yourself just the right amount of grace while also demanding a little more from yourself. Finding that balance of, you know, being loving yourself and kicking yourself in the ass. Like you got to find that balance because we are capable of doing more. But it's exactly what the dude was saying. You got to build momentum, build those wins. You don't need to start out going 60 miles an hour. No, start out going 10 miles an hour and go that way for a mile and then go a little faster. And when you do that, that's how you build consistency. That's how you build momentum. And that's how you build that mental toughness because, oh, I have these wins stacked. I don't want to lose the momentum I've been building. Let me
Mhm.
keep going. Let me keep going. Let me keep going. And then you end up turning around, looking back, and you're like, "Holy crap! I used to be way the heck back there.
Yeah.
Look how far I've come." And you didn't realize you've come that far though until you turn around.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing. And yeah, it gets me fired up. Like I don't know, I could flip this table right now if I
That's what I'm
wanted to
talking about.
because it just
Like,
gets
let's
me
go,
so
baby.
psyched, dude. It gets me so psyched because dude, I tell people I have these conversations regularly because I don't know. I have found for whatever reason, not even this stems from before even the weight loss thing. And my wife has made a joke to me about it forever because she sees it all the time. I attract misfits, and I don't know why. There's some quality about me that attracts the misfits who seek, me to help them. And I don't know why that's what it is, but I say, all right, God, let me help the misfits that seem to flock to me. Sometimes it's a frustrating pain, but also it's like, no, I need to elevate myself a little bit to, help anyone that needs some help. But I have found that those people tend to flock to me. So I'm always having to kind of, see how I can help these people do the things they need to do. And when I give them kind of the task of the workouts, or like I said, the 2 days a week things, and they're like, I don't know if I can do this. I say, you absolutely can do this. And the reason I get so excited about it is because, like, I am a nobody. I am a Joe freaking schmo who, made this transformation. And you go on social media and you see day after day, you see, click that transformation Tuesday hashtag, and you're gonna see thousands of other Joe Schmoes who did it too. So that's why it gets me fired up when we talk about this, because it's like I believe so strongly in all these misfits of people, and every person, like, dude, you have this. Anybody can do it, because I'm nothing special. This guy's nothing special. This girl's nothing special. This guy's nothing special on social media, but they all freaking did it. There's a
Uh-huh.
common thread, and they just went to work. Like, you know what to do. You know what to do.
So I turned the big 40 this year.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah,
Exciting. I got a couple more birthdays before that, thankfully.
there you go. I can tell you I right now, I don't know if it's because I've let my body get away from myself a little bit. Um, but my mortality,
Jeez.
I'm feeling it. I see it. It's like, oh man, pretty
Yeah.
soon, people go thinking it's their grandparents. Well, my grandparents are gonna die, and then it's like, oh, my parents are gonna die, and then all of a sudden it's like,
Yeah.
I'm next type thing, and it's like, okay, it doesn't seem that far, but yet for me, I want to live my life with my children. I want to adventure together, and so the 40-year-old me physically is like that 0 to 60 guy. I don't burn out very easy. I'm
Mhm.
like, dude, when I finally put my mind to something, it's phenomenal.
It
The,
it's on, sure.
yeah, the issue is that my body, I'm gonna be 40, and I still think I'm like 22 and playing college football. You know, like
Mhm.
like yeah, man, I'm an athlete. No, I was an athlete, and
Mhm.
now I'm a father of three, and I work a 9 to 5, and you know,
Sure. Yeah.
here I
Yeah.
am just wanting to make the best of my life and hopefully impact people's lives through what we talk about on these episodes. But that's the struggle I find is not necessarily the 0 to 60 and burning myself out, but like understanding that I'm not what I was as age has set in and how to navigate that moving forward as well.
Mhm. I feel like no matter which age bracket you're at, or any point in life, you just set a goal though, and at that point, like, it doesn't make a difference. Your goals will change, but the actual, effort to obtain them won't change. But the modalities in which you use to get to it will shift. It's like I don't train for max effort strength anymore, because um from doing powerlifting for so long, it's just like, yeah, it did some wear and tear, but and then I basically shifted my focus, still very strength based, but it's like a different type of strength based now. And actually, by doing that, I'm literally stronger now than I ever was powerlifting. So it's kind of funny how that worked out. But I do think that, despite the age, though, once you set the goal, that method to attack doesn't change, and isn't going to change, but you can, you just, the goal changes. It's like you're 40, so it's like you might not care about a 1 rep max anymore, like you might have cared 30, or when you were 30. You know what I'm saying? But, like,
Right.
I do think what your goal is, though, doesn't need to change. It's like, if you're 40 and you want to run this or do that, or be this body weight, or this body fat, or this strength, like, I don't think that needs to change, really.
Uh-huh.
That's how I feel. That's my take on it, though.
Uh,
You know, if you just got to like remind yourself you're also not a bitch, and it's time to get to work, though.
Hashtag not a bitch.
Yeah, dude. You just have to like I said before, like there is a tightrope that you have to walk, which is just the right amount of like grace and understanding while also kicking yourself in the ass and like lighting that fire because like it's time to go to work. You can do this. You
Mm,
got to remind yourself you can do this.
yeah,
You're 40. Like how many times do people turn 40 and they think that they just turned 60? Like dog, get to work. You're fine, dude. You're
yeah.
fine.
Well, so a lot of this stems from our diet, right? It's like monkey see, monkey do. We are what we eat. These concepts of like what we put in our body is what we become. And if we're putting in garbage, then we become garbage. Not just edible and eating wise, but you know, you're the first person that I've really dove into talking about the idea of stop scrolling.
Hmm.
Read, don't scroll, right?
Yeah.
That's a problem with like modern day, excuse me. Man, got that smoker's cough kicking in.
And so you got that 40-year-old lung
Yeah,
cough
right.
happening right now.
I got the black lung pops. So, this idea of like, read, don't scroll, and modern day society only looks at headlines. They don't actually read what's in
Yeah,
the
we don't
article.
absorb. Yep,
Uh,
exactly.
and so I love the idea of like, who is it? What the guy from First Form, um, Andy Frisella. There you go.
Mhm.
He came up with that program. What?
75 hard.
Yeah, I think it's cool because it incorporates the whole concept of like you just choose whatever nutrition program you want, but
Mhm,
then you also need to make sure you read, and you have to read a certain amount because you're sharpening your mind and your body at the same time.
mhm.
Uh, what are you? I mean, you've owned it. You're dominating. You're living the life. You're not just talking fluff and then going and pounding a box of donuts when we get off this recording, whether you might want to or not. Uh,
Oh, I want to, definitely, no doubt about
beyond
that.
just the physical dedication and being like, okay, this is what I'm doing to change my life. How else are you sharpening yourself as a man?
Well, I mean, like I said before, a strong body builds a strong mind, and a strong mind builds a strong life. Like if if your mind isn't firing too, you're missing the point. And when your brain starts firing, that's when everything starts to change. So it's your mind that's going to really make the difference. It's your mind that's going to get you into the gym on the days you don't feel like going. It's your mind that's going to say, okay, this struggle is happening right now. Am I going to lay down and die, or am I going to persevere and overcome the circumstances? So sharpening your mind is an enormous part of the equation. In fact, it's the biggest part of the equation because like I said, that's what gets the physical to change and it's what gets your mental to change. But there's also a spiritual component because we need to sharpen our minds. And I think the best way to sharpen your mind is by reading because you slow down, you absorb information, you're teaching yourself things, you're learning. The more the more capable you become, the more self-reliant you become, which also simultaneously builds confidence, it builds discipline, it builds all these things that we want that sharpen our brains. So then you know, when hard things come, you're harder and you're able to get over the hump
Right.
and not lay down and die. But there's also a spiritual component because, and it's not even necessarily like faith based or religion based. It's just like, who the hell are you to the world? Like, what are you putting out into the world? What's the vibe you're putting out there? What's the message that you're putting out there? These are things that are important that I think a lot of people don't think about. It's like, there's there's that phrase, poor girls who suffer from it, resting bitch face.
Oh yeah,
It's just
dude,
like
they're the worst.
we but it's like you feel so bad for these women who do that. I'm sure men do it too, but obviously women get it talked about more.
Yeah.
But like your facial expression communicates so much more to the world than what you say, what you do. So in that same context, what you're communicating to the world with the way you live, with your facial expression. Are you smiling at people or are you a dick? Are you being kind to the cashier or are you being a prick? It's like these are other parts of the equation that I think are very important for being a mentally strong person, because when you you know rise above and you shatter your ceiling and you get to that next level, you'll start to realize, oh, to actually be my best self actually involves how I'm treating those around me as well as just myself. Like there is a component that is hitting other people too. But that's a next level thing. You got to first sharpen yourself, but then eventually you will be sharp and you'll realize that that is a new level. And that's when the spiritual component comes in to truly be like an unstoppable person where every element is firing. But I do think, like an airplane, it could look nice on the outside, but if one of the wings is going to fall off, you're going to crash. Or if the one of the engines is not running properly, you're going to crash. So with physical, spiritual, and mental, it's like they all kind of need to be operating for your plane to fly far and fast.
Yeah.
So I do feel that they all go hand in hand, but I do think within like a journey of a person, let's call it, they all kind of have different there's different points where one is it's like, okay, let's work on the physical point. Okay, that's going to start to dial in. Then you start to dial in that the mental stuff, because you got some wins under your belt. Your brain's firing now. You're actually like starting to build that discipline now, and discipline's what takes you over the hump. And then it's like, okay, the next level, let's make sure our spirit is right. Let's make sure that who the hell we are as a person, what we're putting out into the world, is what we want to be putting out into the world. How many times do you know someone where they have no idea how they present themselves to the world, or they think this is how people view me, but it's actually completely the opposite, because you're not who
Yes.
you think you are.
Yeah.
It's like they say that I do X, but it's like, yeah, well, the way that you talked all that shit to the waitress who your meal was wrong begs to differ about how positive you are into the world. And there, or like, I don't know, I can't tell you how many times I've seen these like men's groups or these men's platforms, by these big, tough, burly men. But it's like, but these motherfuckers are divorced now. So it's like, oh, well, I guess actually you weren't living the life that you were preaching to me, because some part of the equation wasn't there.
I
And that's
got
why I
shocked.
say it's all important.
I got shocked today by somebody who's in high regard in the
Mhm.
man improvement scene,
Sure.
podcast, storytelling, all that. Just posted that he is divorced, and I was like,
Like, as of now, I
uh,
mean, I don't really get down. I mean, I don't get down. It's like they're great. If they're bettering men, that's great. I'm saying, like, I don't really know many spaces or people within these spaces. Like, I see it in the church all the time. But I see it often. It just seems like everyone who's preaching something falls uh, in like regarding what they're actually preaching in this space of like manhood. And I'm just always just flabbergasted by, how are you preaching X and then like your own life though goes down the tubes? Like
totally, totally,
there's something missing here.
totally.
And therefore, like, you could talk credibility, you could talk, you know, bullshit, there's all these kind of parts. And, obviously we all have our struggles, but, you know, the, if you're not in the position to speak on the subject, probably don't speak on the subject. That's
Mm,
kind of how I feel. But again, it just comes down to, are you firing on all cylinders with your physical health, your mental health, and your spiritual health? Like they're all those are that's the that's the trinity right there.
yeah.
And if one of them's lacking, your plane is going to crash. That's what I believe, at least. That's how I believe to be the
You
case.
know, it's funny. When I used to teach health, and actually, I want to come back to the whole reading thing here. So we're
Hmm.
gonna, I'm gonna come back to that because I got some real tangible uh,
I'm
experiences I
ready.
want to share with that. But I used to teach this thing called the balance beam of life, and I would have a 2x4, and I'd place it between two desks, and I'd help kids, and I'd say, all right, you guys physically are going to be walking the balance beam of life, and on the balance beam were 6 little blocks of wood, and on them was written each aspect of life. So there's spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and vocational wellness, health. And you had to walk the balance beam from one end to the other without knocking off these blocks off this 2x4. And a lot of kids, once they got in the center of it and it started to wobble or started to bounce, these blocks would fall off. And I'd explain to them, see, it's not as easy as you might think. And just because you got your spiritual aspect on lockdown doesn't mean you got your physical aspect on lockdown. Or just because you got your physical aspect doesn't mean you have your emotional aspect. And so, talking about, we are a wheel, and those 6 aspects are the spokes to a wheel. And anytime one of those spokes is not there and it's not supporting your wheel, when you go down the road of life, when you hit bumps or potholes, there's a chance that your wheel could get dented or bumped or misshapen. And then when you're rolling, it doesn't roll as smoothly. And then that picks up steam and it snowballs into other issues. And it's fascinating. Just like do 10 push-ups. Just
Do 10.
find a different dopamine hit. Instead of eating candy, speak out loud to yourself. No, I don't need it. No, I don't want it.
You can coach yourself pretty effectively when you actually start to give a damn and try. I have found it to be very much the case because every subject, like, we all know what's the right move, but our shittiness makes it hard, makes us look for the easiest way out when we know that that's not necessarily the right way. So you can kind of coach yourself in those situations, but you have to actually start trying. And I think people will be very, very surprised at how well they can talk themselves out of doing, or do either doing certain things or not doing certain things, depending on what the right answer is. I found it for myself, and I find it and that's what actually builds the discipline. And then you build that personal accountability because you're holding yourself accountable. And then, boom, dude,
Yeah.
you've just reached a new level of self right there because you now are your master. You are holding yourself accountable
Dude,
without anyone else needing you.
When you can do that, I've reached the top.
Yeah, well, I mean, you really do kind of shatter that ceiling at that point and, reach a new level.
I did my workout I did yesterday was 100 burpees, like full on with the push-ups and the jumps, and then I ran a mile and a quarter. One
Nice.
big lap around my neighborhood is a mile or a little over, and on those burpees, it sounds like 100 burpees maybe not sound like that difficult, but I'll tell you this: when you're out of shape, it's a butt kicker.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a sufficient workout for sure.
And what I realized is, like, number one, I got to count out loud. I can't count in my head because it's easy to all of a sudden be like, oh, what number was I on? Or, it's
Sure.
like, and then the second thing is I had to say, stop being a bitch. I go, you only got 25 more. Do it. You only got 5 more. Do it. You only got 10 more. Do it.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
You're giving yourself the pep talk that you need, and it's a very effective thing to do.
Yeah.
It's very effective.
Yeah.
Very effective.
So that was some real life things. I'm winning in that category. The nutrition is lacking. That's where we're going to get it on lockdown. By the time you guys hear this episode, which is released on New Year's Day, the new JMac is rocking and rolling.
I'm ready, baby.
So,
I'm ready.
Going back to the whole scrolling versus reading thing. So I work in a school, which is so fascinating. Like, I'm really blown away. James, I think you're going to actually
Tell me.
Appreciate this because you homeschool.
We do, yeah.
I'm a huge proponent of homeschool. Public education, let's just
say. They have lost their minds.
Yeah.
They have lost their minds. And my wife and I grew up in public school, so we're public school kids. But, yeah, they have lost their minds. And, they cannot be trusted, nor will they be.
So, with that being said, I work in a school where it's like the alternative school. I more or less am teacher of record, even though I'm the social studies teacher. These kids are on computers all day, going through a computer program education with quizzes and tests. And well, these kids nowadays have zero vocabulary.
Okay.
And I find it fascinating because what I've always spoken about when it comes to the hunting world and all this is like I wanted to gain knowledge because I didn't have knowledge of how to provide food for myself or my family. No one holds their own knowledge anymore. They all, Google anything. Hey Alexa, hey Siri, hey, you
Yeah.
know, and someone's giving them instant feedback, instant gratification, um, instantly, and they're not retaining the knowledge. So when you put in the work to
Mhm.
search, read, and then consume, you retain that knowledge,
Sure.
right? And so I had this kid, he was doing this quiz and he's like, "Hey, Mr. Mac, what what does burdensome or no, what does cumbersome mean?" And I go, "I could tell you, but there's a dictionary right there. Go look it up."
Mhm.
And he's like
Nice.
"Oh, oh." And so he finally gets up, goes and gets this dictionary, sits down at his desk. Takes him a while to find cumbersome.
I bet it did.
And I go, "Well, what's the definition?" He's like, "Burdensome." He's like, "What does burdensome mean?" And I go, "Well, look up burdensome."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, I don't want to do this." And just like, and I'm talking on a very, very macro level, like how challenging it was for a kid to just flip a page and
Sure.
search for a word to better himself. The
Yeah,
more
right.
vocabulary we hold, the better our in everything, right?
Yeah.
Our understanding, our knowledge, our verbal, our speaking, like everything becomes better through our vocabulary. So he's like, "Well, I can't find burdensome, but I can find burden." I was like, "Okay, well, tell me what that means." And
Yeah.
the point of what I'm getting at is that kid struggled because he didn't want to put in the effort to look up the word to get the definition. He ended up
Mhm.
getting his answer wrong because he wouldn't actually read and do the work to get the definition. He's like, "I thought you were supposed to be my teacher." I'm like, "I am teaching you
Oh, man.
how to gain knowledge."
That
I'm
was Mr. Miyagi shit is what you were doing right there. Daniel LaRusso didn't realize he was learning right in that situation.
exactly, exactly. So here I was. I go to a different classroom, and I have this one student who's just an absolute pain in the tushy,
Mhm.
and he freaking pulled out a vocabulary word that I taught him the previous year. And I was like, "Dude, how do you remember that?" He goes, it stuck with me. I remember it because I had to look it up." And I was like, "Okay. So you retained let's say it's a worthless word or,
Yeah.
like you retained it."
Let's say it was a cumbersome word that you
Oh,
retained.
ooh, I like that. It was burdensome on his mind at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
He retained it, and then he could recite the definition of it, and he could use it in a sentence and all this stuff. And this is a kid that wasn't even passing like classes.
Yeah.
I go, so everything stems from vocabulary.
Mhm.
Everything when it comes to knowledge, right? You want to learn how to read? Well, what do you got to know? Words. You got to understand definitions of words and how they're used. And then that builds off to everything else, right? So I found it interesting that when kids would stop scrolling or stop Googling answers or stop whatever, and they'd actually go to a book and
Mhm.
physically open it up. This is why
Right.
I'm such a proponent of verbally speaking out loud, right? We can pray in our head, we can think in our head, but when we speak it out loud, it becomes real and it
Sure.
becomes like, okay, I can do this or I won't do that.
Official.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
official.
yeah.
It becomes
Yeah.
tangible.
Mhm.
Same thing with opening a book. Same thing with all these things. And so I guess my big accountability moment is like, all right, I'm going to hold myself accountable because I'm saying it now. I'm
Mhm.
My goal is to get down to marriage weight, 205, baby.
Okay.
I
Let's
want I
go.
want to be in my marriage weight, because I felt good. I could get even more fit, which
Mhm.
we'll cross that bridge when time comes. Time comes is I want to get into a suit that I got for my wedding. and I want to get
Mhm.
in wedding weight and in marriage weight, and it all starts with speaking it, doing it, and
Yeah.
here we go,
It's
baby.
official.
It's
It's you
official.
said it on the
We're
podcast,
kicking it
dude.
off. All you
It's going.
listeners, hold me accountable and be like, "Hey, how's
Amen.
that going?"
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna be texting you and making sure it's gonna happen. You don't you worry about that. Don't you worry about that. I
So,
can be very annoying.
what
I
did
can
you
be very annoying.
what did you think about hearing the whole the vocabulary thing?
Well, I think the dude had to put in the work to get the reward, and he either didn't want to do it. So look what happened. Whereas the other dude who put in the work wanted it, got it, retained it. I think it's no different than anything else. Literally, like, wow, full circle moment here on this podcast episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's and I think that there's a huge benefit to, I mean, granted, like when talking books, he's looking through a dictionary, which he'll probably never open again in the rest of his life because no one else will probably take the approach that Mr. Mac took that day with him. Uh, but yeah, he made him work for it, which I appreciate. I respect that. And these kids need that.
You know what
Man,
I
do they need
you know
that.
what I got my kids for Christmas?
A dictionary, Webster's dictionary. Wow, what a shitty Christmas
You
present.
bet your sweet ass.
That's hilarious. Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
That's what you got? Oh man, that's great.
Yeah, man. It's like I want to
Take this, kids.
kids within this book holds the
Right?
secrets to
Well,
life.
dude, that's the thing. You as a kid, dude, you don't appreciate those things. You don't understand, like, oh, there is so much to know in this, or it's like you don't appreciate those things as kids. It's like, we have my wife and I say every day, our kids, like, we're so ungrateful. They got all this stuff. They have unbelievable amount of house full of toys. They're like, I'm bored. It's like, I said the same things as a kid. You can't teach certain things. Like you gotta have your own come to Jesus moment, and it ain't gonna happen when you're 7 years old, 8 years old. It'll
Right.
happen when you're 37 years old. Like you're
Right.
not gonna notice. So yeah, you can't. You can only show. You can only guide them so far. But yeah,
Dictionary. Gee, thanks, Dad.
yeah,
You're welcome, son.
yeah. Read up. I'll be quizzing you later on the A's.
So what my goal is and plan is with the dictionary, because granted, kids aren't going to just be like opening dictionaries and be like, okay, we're
Yeah,
going to go through the A section. I want to
yeah.
have a word of the week, and at dinner when we sit
Okay.
down for dinner, be like, hey kids, this is going to be our word that we're going to learn,
Yeah,
and
I like that.
and we're gonna have this word, and we're gonna learn the definitions, and we're gonna see how we can use it in sentences and use it in conversation throughout the week.
That's great. By doing it 7 days a week, you'll learn you'll have it down, and the next week a new word. No, I love that.
Yeah.
I
So
might
that
steal that. I might
so
steal that.
yeah, please take it, make it yours. That's
Yeah,
hopefully we all can be our own Mr. Miyagi's for our families.
that's it, dude. We have to be. Dude, it's an amazing it's I mean, that's dude, that that way of learning though, that concept, like, it really is what that really is learning, like, when you don't realize that's what's happening, and you eventually have that moment where, LaRusso flips out, and he's like, "What are you're just having me work and do work for you for free and do chores. You're not teaching me how to fight." And then he's like, "Watch this, bitch." And then it turns out, yes, he was teaching you how to fight. And that moment, though, that come to Jesus moment, as I said, it's like, we that really is it's like the most effective way of teaching when you finally, well, it's like you learn it, you realize it for yourself. You
Yeah.
can be told something over and over and over again, but then when you finally realize, oh yes, shatter, ceiling shatter,
Yeah.
now you're at a new level. Same thing with fitness, same thing with any goal you're going after, anything you're trying to learn. It's you when you finally have that realization, that's when the ceiling shatters, and that's a good thing because
Yeah.
you're now advancing to the next level.
Absolutely. Well, let's shift gears here. By the way, I didn't introduce you as a hunter, but you are an absolute stud in the Adirondacks.
I do hunt.
A slayer with the bow, chasing those deer. You, my man, killed a great buck
Mhm.
on a hunt, and then you told an epic story about it.
Thank
Um,
you.
can share with the listeners a little bit about what that is and kind of what went down and then how they can find it, because
Yeah.
I posted on my socials, but people were probably scrolling rather than like
Mhm.
going
No,
through and
I appreciate that. No, I had a hunting season that started off with an absolute bang, and then, I was like, "Dude, this is gonna be a killer. This is gonna be a season to remember." And then the second the rest of the season was, not it was just like, "Oh, that's right. That's right. I got really lucky to start, and then that's right. Now back to Adirondack hunting. Okay, cool, cool, cool." And it's like during the I like to track when the snow flies, and we got very minimal snow. And, oh, dude, literally, okay. Oh, just got a picture, deer picture as I'm telling you this. Let's see if it's a buck or if it's a doe. Probably a doe, a mangy doe. Yeah, a doe. Still though. But the rest of the season did not end as I would have liked. But yeah, the first week of bow season, I got an 8 point Adirondack buck, and I did a podcast episode on my show called 46 to 46 Podcast. And I'm really proud of that episode because I can assure you, you've never heard a hunting story told in the format that I told it. It's
it's
and
phenomenal. It's really good, brother.
I'll put it up against anything anyone is ever done. That it is, and I'm going to say it. It is the most cinematic hunting story you've ever heard. It is I'm so proud of what that episode was because it just hit. The emotions, the music was right, I just did a great job, and I'm not necessarily one to pat myself on the back, but damn it, I'm very confident about that episode in
Yeah,
particular.
you
Uh,
crushed
it's
it.
called the it's called the Split Brow Buck, 46 to 46 podcast. If you wanna hear a hunting story where it's like you're right there with me and watching a movie of the hunt, I highly recommend checking it out. I'd appreciate it. It's a fun story, and it's filled with laughs, head shakes, but ultimately getting it done in the clutch, and that's really all that matters.
Totally. Well, so it's not a snooze fest, but my kids, they like to listen to stories at night. If I normally I'll play them like a song. We have a bedtime song. Um,
That's great.
but I did turn on your story after I've already listened to it on my own. I was like, kids, you guys are gonna want to hear this.
Mhm.
It was lights out city. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
Not,
that's good.
maybe it's your soothing voice, but the story
Yeah,
is phenomenal. I'm
it
sitting there
is. I
just
get
wide
told that a
awake.
lot. No, dude, I've been wanting to do an episode, like a hunting episode like that for a while. I just like, I mean, if I'm being honest, okay, if I'm being honest, the amount of hours I spent from writing the story to editing the story to recording to and then editing the episode, like there's a lot of hours. There's probably 3 full days in that podcast episode. So that's the real reason I never have really tackled that episode because like the amount of time I put into it was tremendous. But I feel I'll straight up say this too. If there was a hunting podcast sponsored by any, firearms company, bow company, whatever, where every week it was a story told just like that, it would be the number one listened to hunting podcast in the world.
Yeah.
I will put $1 million on that. That would be the number one listened to podcast because what do people love the most in this country? They love movies, they love stories, they love cinematic stories. There's nobody doing anything like that. And I would just kill to listen to. In fact, it's weird to me that like you don't see Meat Eater doing a podcast like that because they're always out. One of their people are out. Like you could just retell that story. I mean, you could do a whole season's worth, but tell it in the way that makes me feel like I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And not just like, we hear people tell hunting stories on podcasts. Obviously, this podcast does exactly that. But to now tweak it like I'm watching a movie, adding sound effects, adding the footsteps in the grass, adding the gunshot, the bow snapping, like adding all these things, and like, wow, I feel like I'm there. Yeah, it undoubtedly be the number one listened to hunting podcast on the planet. So for all of you listeners, hound your people to listen to that episode and create a podcast that's just like that,
Yeah,
because it would be awesome. I'd be the first one to listen to it
dude. Well,
also.
there you go. Sounds like you get to listen to your own podcast then.
Yeah, I do. I mean, can I be honest with you too? Can I be honest with you too? I'm
Please,
actually
please.
another reason I'm so psyched that that episode is done is because like I get to relive it, and
Yeah,
it's just like as I mean it's and as even as I listen to it, I'm just like I'm into this story, and then I'm just like, whoa, that actually happened. That was me with my hands in my pockets. Holy shit. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm happy that I get to listen to
that's
that
why I like to
podcast.
film my hunts.
Yeah,
I
sure.
love to relive it. You know.
Yeah, and it's exciting. It's like you have it documented for you, and if other people enjoy it too, cool. But you get it for you. Like that's just a beautiful thing to have.
Yeah. Oh, so beautiful. Well, brother, for the sake of time, I'm going to invite you back now. So here's your invitation. Let's touch base in a couple months and get you back
Hmm.
on when people are starting to think spring bod and summer bod and
Sure.
preparing and training for their hunts. Obviously, you're a fitness guy and you're also a hunter, so there's this whole mentality of like training to hunt or being a
Hmm.
mountain athlete or
Sure.
however you just want to go about it. Let's get you back on here in the springtime. We'll talk all about that plan, that dedication, and dial it in a little bit more. But for those of people who their interest was piqued and perked up through this
Hmm.
episode and hearing you talk, um, they can hire you as a coach. They can
Yeah.
go through a program. How do people go get a hold of you?
You can find me on the Instagrams at James Appleton 46, and then my podcast is the 46 of 46 podcast. 46 of 46.com. That's where that's found. But yeah, I coach people through a program that I created for myself years ago, and now I coach other people through it. And it's basically to strengthen your mind, your body, and your spirit because, as I said before, they're all connected and they all need to be firing. So, you're going to build mental toughness, you're going to build grit and discipline, actually, and have a system in your life that you can maintain and sustain so that you can actually keep moving forward at all times. You don't need to take your foot off the gas pedal because it works. And, but a lot of times, it takes a lot to be able to hold yourself accountable and get your ass doing the things you don't feel like doing on the days you don't feel like it. That's when a coach comes in, and that's when guidance and someone actually being on the journey with you comes in, and iron sharpens iron. So that's what I coach people through. Have a number of very successful clients who are just kicking some ass right now, and it gets me so psyched. They probably don't realize that it psychs me up more than it psychs them up to see the results they're getting.
I love
But
that.
yeah, that's find me on Instagram at James Appleton 46, and we'll chat. And then yeah, I'm an Adirondack guy, so I'm up here in the Northeast. But you guys are ever in the Adirondack Mountains, you want to hit me up? Please do. I'd love to go out into the woods with you.
There you go. He's also an author, by the way. So,
Mm.
um, if you ever want to hike the Adirondack Mountains, you're the only person who's ever written a guidebook for all 46 peaks, correct?
I'm not the only one who's written a guidebook. I'm the book that I wrote is the only one that's like there is like the guidebook, but it's not like what I've written. I've written I guess it's in this situation, the word guidebook has different meanings, but I wrote an actual plan for you. I gave a strategy on how to climb the 46 high peaks, how to pair them, where the trailheads are, what each trail is going to be like, et cetera, that sort of thing. But yeah, I've wrote that book, and it's done very well. And I'm actually currently writing the second edition of that, which will be published in 2025. Yeah, it'll be next spring, which is like by
That's
then
wild to think
I
that
might not
far.
I might not even like the outdoors by next spring, Who knows? Who knows what might happen? I might finally have a Bigfoot encounter outside, and I'm like, I'm not going in the woods ever again. So, I don't know. But yeah, it's basically a guidebook about giving you a plan of action to climb the 46 high peaks, which is it's a big thing. It's a big to do here in the Northeast to climb those in the Adirondacks.
Yeah. Oh man, that's phenomenal. Guys, be encouraged, right? So, the number one known trait of a man is courage. It starts with courage. Courage to lead your own life. Courage, you can't be a leader of others if you can't lead yourself. Courage to take that first step, courage to get down on the ground and do that first push-up, courage to say no to that crappy food that's not going to serve you. You are either going to serve a life that is going to lead you to a quick death, or you're going to serve a life that is going to lead you to a life of abundance and to thrive. And we want to thrive together. I want to thrive. I'm sick of not thriving. I'm sick of being sick. I'm ready to live and to really get after it. So 2024, baby, it starts now. Getting after it. If you guys have enjoyed this episode, man, I'm stumbling over my words, James. Stumbling over my words. I thought I was a podcast host. What's going on here?
You sound great, dude.
Guys, if you've enjoyed this episode, go check out James at 4646 Podcast. Reach out to him. Get connected. It's all about that community. You want to have support, go start it and reach out and get the support that you want. If you like this episode, share, like, subscribe, do all that cool stuff to help grow. Remember that hunting has a power to transform lives through primal adventure, and you can never outgive good, as mentorship is conservation. If you guys want to support the show, you can help by going to soulseekersnation.com, clicking on the online store, and go pick yourself up a shirt, hat, sticker, and so much more. Be blessed, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this episode. For Johnny Mac, James Appleton, freedom on, and as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating, as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group, as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.